Hey everybody, how are you on this Sunday? I hope you're doing well, and we have a nice special show for you today. Special guest who we'll invite on later. I'm gonna, instead of just blowing a solo here like I normally do, I'm gonna base what I'm playing off of the use of finger control. Because a lot of people think that this is maybe just for jazz or whatever, but I'm just going to play some things and demonstrate how I use fingers in both hands, traditional and matched if you're playing the right hand, right? But I will stick with traditional because that's what I play, and do some things. And if you got some questions on it afterwards, we can hit me up and we'll talk about it. Okay? But here's some ideas, phrases, and things to do with that I couldn't do if I didn't use the fingers. Okay? Here we go. All right. Yeah. We have wrists, we have arms, we have, hands and fingers, right? So, yeah, I learned finger control a long time ago, and as you can see, it's kind of an important stroke, and I think a lot of people actually, at least in my experience with teaching, that there's a little bit of confusion about really what finger control is. And if you watch somebody like Tony Williams, especially, I kind of, took it from the way he did it. And of course, my early teachers, Joe Berger and Bob Matheny, had a lot to do too with directing me. Jim Petersack showed me the two-finger control, two-finger left-hand control a long time ago as well when I was a kid. And and I've since developed all these things, and I use them when I need to use them. I'll switch from the wrist stroke, and I'll come out of controlled strokes with the hands and use combinations. A lot going on. A lot of this, of course, has to do, with bounce. But this right hand thing, if you play match grip especially, a lot of people call this the French grip. It's not really a French grip because it's not coming this way, right? French grip is more from here, but this is, if you go watch some Tony Williams videos, you'll see the elbow goes out, and that kind of keeps this geometry going the same as, when you're using the wrist stroke this way. It becomes the extension of your arm, right? So in a sense, unless you're really kind of doing more of a German thing. But when I go to the fingers, the elbow goes out, and then the biggest thing though is pushing out here, and that really allows use of the fingers. You see the wrist is not moving. So a lot of people will do finger control like this, where they'll just kind of involve the fingers in the wrist position, which is cool. The only thing with this is that it limits the volume. I can't get any more power than this. If I go here, though, the stick can all the way go up this way and bounce a lot more than it can here, right? So it's kind of limiting. I certainly use that as well in conjunction with wrists when I'm here, but that's the thing with the finger control this way. Now, when I learned it from Jim Petersack a long time ago, I was probably 13, 14, no, 15, I guess, when he taught me. And, he said, yeah, just turn it over this way, get the stick parallel, and bounce it with two fingers. So the fingers are going over the stick in that way. And then when I turn it over this way, I'm actually just kind of letting it sit in the cradle here. There's not a fulcrum, so it kind of just sits there and it bounces. And I go back and forth from one finger to two fingers like that. So anyway, I not only use it for, as you could tell, I did very little single stroke stuff on the drums. It was more about the grooves and the time, and especially if I'm going to play a fast, cymbal pattern, whether it be straight, funk type of stuff, if it's like this, right? Kind of a jazz fusion funk type of thing. I'm going to be using that, and it's kind of similar to a bebop jazz thing that's up tempo, because when you're up tempo, they kind of become eighth notes anyway, right? So those two kind of cross, but if I go up to the bell on the cymbal, I will be using more of the molar thing and using this position for the fingers. So anyway, let me slap on my comments here. I forgot to do that today. Yeah, Steve, are you seeing any questions? Specifically about what we're talking about right now?
Yes, 1 second. I'll join you. How you doing there?
Hey, Steve, you're there. How are you? Sorry, we've said hi all morning already. We've had a lengthy warm up and a lengthy hello. So I forgot that we didn't actually introduce you yet to say hello to the folks.
Yeah. I like lurking in the background.
Yes, that was good.
But there was a question about it, and it went by so fast. So hello, everybody, and welcome. And
yeah.
It goes by so quickly. But I did see something about it because you mentioned Tony Williams. A little bit about how he applied this. Are you familiar with Tony enough to answer that question, how he applied finger control?
Well, I mean, just both in his time playing, but he would literally do, especially in a drum solo situation, he would, when he was playing match grip, both of his, they would go out this way, and I would see him do this, literally. So go dig up some YouTube videos of Tony, and you'll see what I mean. He's, definitely was a big inspiration as far as a lot of things musically, but that finger control thing with the elbow out and just that whole thing of just using fingers, you'll see him do that. So
Cool.
I see a question. I see a question here that how can you play soft with finger control? Well, honestly, that's the whole purpose of it, especially the left hand, because you can really kind of keep the bounce controlled here. So if I'm turning my wrist and I'm using a little bit of the molar motion, right? You see, especially the first finger is involved with the control of the bounce. If I took that finger off, it would go all over the place, and I'd have to rely on the thumb. So, to play soft, but that's the whole point of fingers. And I was going to say, actually, I actually play, I use fingers when I want to play a softer single stroke roll, for example. Or yes, I'll play controlled, but you see, because I'm rolling it out, I'm pushing it out this way. And it's again, I think I saw you post there, Steve. In the school, we talk about this a great deal. There's a whole section on finger control with both hands and the real mechanics of it. But that's that is the basic idea of again, thumb up. Coming from wrist position, the thumb goes up, and it pushes out this way, all the way, so that the fingers are flat like this, and then it becomes this, so the wrist isn't moving. And when I want to go back to wrist stuff, so if I'm playing, any kind of jazz pattern, see if it's going out there for a bit to get those multiple strokes. And then this is always just a combination of wrist movement and fingers, and both one over the top this way. So yeah, it's just a matter of, I remember when I was very young, I was just practicing this on the floor, watching TV with a practice pad. So, it's like anything else. It's just repetitive practice, for anything that you want to master. It's just learning the mechanics, learning the muscle memory is really what it's about. So, yeah. Okay. What else you got there?
Kaylin here, I'll put up on the screen. Why do you prefer the traditional grip? You've discussed this before, but the ability to touch and to go up on the tip a little bit, maybe that would be cool to go into for a sec.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, the real reason I prefer traditional is because I learned that way. I came up in a jazz-oriented school where most of the drummers that I was inspired by and followed, from a playing perspective, they all play traditional pretty much. So I just grew up doing that, and it kind of became my home zone at the kit. I talk quite a bit in the school about the difference between matched and traditional, and it's not just the technique that you have to consider, because the big deal with this is just the heights and the angles that are very different. When you're talking about this position versus this position, right? You can see, this was designed when the snare drum was hanging off the marching drum, this way. So you can see that's perfectly in line. Really wasn't designed for playing rock or playing heavy stuff. So even if I have to play heavier material, which is very unlikely and very seldom, my choice, by the way, then I will turn it over and play match grip. And I have spent a good amount of time developing this, but I don't necessarily maintain it. And that's the big deal. It's like, how much time do you have? Can you maintain both grips? It is different muscle memory too, so it's just different. It's a different thing. So, but the setup for me is everything, has everything to do with this working or not, and that's why the angle is so different. So with my drum set, maybe you can see from. You can't really see from that angle either. It's everything is kind of going this, left to right, up and down this way to accommodate this natural height difference of the left hand. So And like I said, it's so I prioritize my grip or the setup based on the traditional grip. And if I sit at a kit that is not set up that way and it's set up to prioritize the match grip situation, I don't even bother turning over this way because it's the unnatural angles and the heights. You will hurt yourself. It's not recommended to try to do that. So I would, if you want to practice the traditional, like I said, there's a lot of time spent in the school where I talk about it, and the setup and the ergonomics, and the ergonomic aspect of the drum kit setup has a lot to do with this, with you being successful at learning it and being comfortable with it, because the stick has to be parallel on the surface, and if you're way up here or the drum is angled to you, it makes it harder because the stick just doesn't bounce. And Steve, you mentioned about the tip. Well, that's one of the biggest reasons that I like traditionals, because I can easily get up on the tip. So it invites a feel and a sound that has a lot of contrast, both dynamically and sound. And the sound that I get on the tip of the stick, okay, if I just play this groove, for example. Right, going up on that tip is really is what kind of it brings you in and out of the groove. If I do that same thing, matched grip, in order to duplicate that, see, I can't go like this, right? That's very unnatural. So I got to go out to the side or I got to come back, which is doable. But it's a lot of motion, it's a lot of movement, and it messes up my time, messes up the feel. So with this guy, it's more of a natural thing, especially up to tempo. So the thing is, though, I spend quite a bit of time, and some of this depends on the music I'm playing. I spend a lot of time getting the angle of the snare drum right and the height so that this cradle position, which Freddie Gruber used to call it all the time, creates a rim shot. That's where it is every time. I don't have to think about it. I close my eyes. Every time I'm going to be on that rim shot. By the way, I shouldn't have this on. My rule is don't play with anything on the wrist. It kind of makes everything uneven to start with, especially if it's a big heavy watch or something. So I like to have everything free and to start with. So yeah, that's why I play traditional. It still feels like home for me. So that's where I stay with it. Yeah.
Okay, very good. And I don't think that we mentioned that coming up in a minute or two, we're going to have Jay Oliver join us.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Stick around for that. That should be really
absolutely
cool. You can ask him questions. Ask him a lot of personal questions if you want. You just heard me.
No, we're gonna have fun with something. We're gonna change it up a little bit today. So yeah. I see a question here, Frank Hoffridge. He says that I'm using French grip on the right hand. Is it better for speed? I was always taught palm down. So Frank and everybody else, it's again, it's about the positioning of what you're doing. It's like the tools for the job. Okay, palm down. That's how is a natural wrist stroke. Okay, that's when you're using your wrists to play this way. Again, this is all gone over in the school, pretty detailed. When you're playing this way, right, for a wrist stroke, yes, I try to be palm down or at least 3/4, the thumb in a position. All the way over, though, is generally the traditional, and, if you go back to the history of how this all started, that's how everybody was playing, that's how everybody was taught. The only time, and again, I don't use French grip per se because that kind of pulls in here, as far as I know, as far as what I was told. When I do finger control, I'm still out this way. So, and again, I generally don't play thumb up or French grip, as you may be calling it, unless I'm using fingers. Normally, like I said, I'm over that way. So if I'm playing a groove on the hi-hat, for example, if I'm playing singles around the kit, because your question was about speed. So, I wish everybody wasn't so, hung up on speed per se, because speed is, it's nice to show it off every once in a while. And if it serves the music and you can fit it in there in the pocket, it can definitely create an effect. It can create an emotional effect. But to just be concerned with speed and play fast all the time, obviously, is not my musical choice. There's so much that goes into playing a song, playing the parts and all that stuff. So these are just tools. When I'm playing palm down, I use wrist, I use multiple motions, which is Moeller technique. Okay, fingers are in there sometimes, and I'll switch it around depending on what I have to do. Right? Yeah, so when speed is concerned, normally I will always at some point go to multiple motion strokes where I'm going to involve the Moeller technique. Okay? And that is generally, yes, palm down. Okay. All right. Any other quick ones that I can answer here? So I'd like to get into this thing with Jay. How do you silence your room? That's a good question. Yeah, we're in the midst of building my studio now, so I will tell you about that when I'm actually doing it, because there are some construction do's and don'ts. What's the black bracelet? What's the black bracelet on your left wrist? It's an iWatch, but it's not a bracelet. It's just a band. But I took it off. Okay. Okay, Steve, you were saying?
Yeah, I want to ask you, in your studio in California, you did a room tuning, and maybe you could explain that for 1 second, whether or not you're doing that. I would assume you're going to do that in the new studio.
Yeah, well, yeah, that gets into a whole, can of worms that we don't necessarily want to open today. But yeah, generally speaking, Dennis Moody helped me build a room in California when I was there, and we tuned the room. We actually tuned the speakers, not the room, because the room was so small I didn't have room to actually put bass traps, which is generally big, cavities filled with insulation that absorb the sound and take the bass away from standing waves. Generally speaking, you never want to have parallel walls in a room, and there's a whole science to this. The more you read about it, the more you need to read about it. It's just endless, really. But there's a difference between sound transmission, which puts the sound out of the room, and then sound absorption, which you want to treat the room so that it sounds good for microphones and for recording. And but in a situation where the room may not be perfect, it's the speakers that you have to tune, and that's what we were tuning. So you just we'd got the two really good graphic EQs, or a stereo EQ basically, and I had it done professionally in LA, and I'm spacing on the guy's name. Yeah, sorry, age. Dennis, if you're there, you know who did this. Type it in. So we tuned the speakers to, and you basically scope it out, and you could do this with an iPhone too. There are ways to do it that get you into understanding where frequencies are too much coming out of the speakers that you're hearing at the mix position, and more importantly, or sometimes as important, is the frequencies that are missing, that you have to add in the EQ. So otherwise you start adding too much of a frequency that you're not hearing because you're in the middle of a standing wave and it's canceling somehow. So it's, but yeah, we tuned the room, we tuned the speakers here when I got to Autumn Hill Studios, and I will certainly be doing it in my room. And we're hopefully, we're going to be trying to get the room set up and so we don't have to do a bunch of that is the goal. So we'll see what happens. Okay, let's get into this. Yeah, a lot of questions here, but I want to involve Jay because he's Jay is my friend for many years, and he was my partner on the early stuff that we did together, starting with Contemporary Drummer Plus One, and you know, we did a lot of stuff together, a lot of records over the years. And our latest one together is Convergence, which is still out there as a play along and a record. And but now that I'm back in St. Louis, Jay is here, and we've been hanging and, you know, talking about projects and this and that. And for these hangs, you know, I'm looking for material to play to. So I asked him quickly, I said, hey man, you got anything kind of funky that you're not using right now that I could play to? And he said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I got something that Rob Silverman was maybe going to use on his next Drumology record. And it's also, you know, Jay is developing an app that is kind of a metronomic, musical metronome app type of situation where he's going to have kind of material like this. So right now, this is in demo form. It's all synths. But I'm going to play to this tune because I thought it would be interesting to play to it and then bring him in and talk about it from a composer standpoint, because I didn't hear his drum demo. So I just listened to it, played it the way that I heard it. And of course, there's, you know, we've always been, you know, into the displaced rhythms a lot. So Jay composes that way naturally. I play that way naturally. But my first inclination on this tune was to kind of play the groove a little bit straight because there was a lot going on. And so we'll bring Jay in after I play it to discuss his intentions as a composer, and then, you know, and then you guys chime in with questions, okay? So the working title on this tune is called Spur Functory. Spur Functory. So Spur, I think he had an older tune of ours, Spur of the Moment, in mind when he was originally getting into composing this. But anyway, I'm not going to talk too much anymore about it. I'm just going to play this tune, and we'll see if I can remember all the hits, because he's playing some games here with the figures. They change up, right? So I have to try to remember which figures are where, and hopefully I'll get it right. Taking stuff out of my pockets, by the way, it's a rule of mine too. Try not to play with things in your pockets. It gets in the way, and it's extra weight. Okay, so here we go. This is the tune, and wish me well. And I'm gonna put on. Let's see which. Let's do this. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here and put this on, and then for the other camera, maybe I'll do that for right now. Actually, let me do that left side. Okay, here we go. Spur Functory. Almost.
There we go. And
Almost.
Jay, let's turn on your mic there. There you go.
Welcome, my friend. Good morning.
Bravo, bravo.
Haha.
Golf clap.
Well, yeah, I would need another take for the solo, but it's okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that just really sucked. God,
Yeah, I know.
terrible.
Yeah, you're a very hard producer to please. So anyway,
No, I thought it was great. It was really nice to hear your take on it.
yeah, you actually haven't heard. That's the first time you heard me actually play the tune. So,
Yeah.
why don't you tell us a little bit about the song, if you want to talk about your app and stuff that you're doing, and what kind of how this thing developed and what it is.
Well, it's one of many actually. I find myself back in my old studio, the studio that you and I started when
Right.
we did Master Plan many years ago. What is that? 30
Yeah,
years?
if you guys look over Jay's shoulder to his left, back behind there through that window, that's the drum booth that I actually recorded most of Master Plan in. Yeah, you can.
Okay,
yeah,
hold on.
there it is.
Time for a trip down memory lane here. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is it's like the basement of my parents' old house. And that's a little drum booth that we created in there. And that's where Dave recorded all the drum parts for Master Plan, except for the title.
Yeah, the title track we did in L.A. with at Mad Hatter with the great Steve Gadd and Anthony Jackson, and that was a blast.
And you're leaving out one person.
And you and
No. Chick Corea, who wrote that song.
of course.
Let us use his
Yeah,
studio.
I was getting to that. But,
Okay. But anyway, yeah, it's just the old basement, and 30 years ago we built a studio, and
That's
one
right.
of the first sessions in that studio was you. I just lost my camera. Are you guys still here and seeing me?
yeah, we're hearing you. We
hear you.
lost your beautiful face though.
Oh boy, hang on. How did this work?
Yeah, iPhones are fun too. There you go.
Okay, is that it? Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So anyway, I came back 5 years ago because my father was ill, so I moved back from Los Angeles, and he continued to get worse, and just passed actually a couple months ago. But I was here helping him, and while I was here, I thought, well, this is the old studio. It's still here. It was just a shell. So I decided to put some temporary gear in here, and temporary became more permanent. And I was planning on leaving actually, and then this guy decides to move to St. Louis. So it's like, well, I can't leave now. So it was just kind of kismet, what it meant to be. So anyway, I've been working on, while I'm here, I've been working on a new concept, and I'm creating an app. Several apps actually, but a couple of the main ones are going to be for drummers and for musicians everywhere, and it's absolutely going to be a game changer. The first one is a big, sort of a thermonuclear metronome, amazing metronome that also plays grooves. You can slow it down, speed it up, and change crazy time sigs and really cool stuff. But the other one is going to play tunes, and it's like a play along for drummers. And one of the tunes I did as a demo is this tune that Dave just played. And then, I kind of originally did it as a quick, maybe 90-second demo, nothing major. And then my friend Rob Silverman, who is him and his brother are Autumn Hill Records, where Dave is recording right now. Rob heard it for his record, Drumology, and said, you know what? You got to have that. I want that. So I said, all right. Well, so I fleshed it out, turned it into a full-on song, and that's what you're hearing Dave do today. So, and Rob never played. He actually had never played to it. It was just a demo idea, and it sat there for a minute. And so, yeah, it's just kind of a crazy, absurd. Let's see what we can throw around as far as displacement. And that was nice to hear you do that. That's badass.
Well, let's talk about for a minute the way that you. How differently was my approach than your idea?
Yeah.
Let's just take the A part of the tune, for example.
Yeah.
Now, most of you may not know this, but Jay is a really good drummer, actually. So, and we back in the day when we kind of discovered displacement stuff by accident when we were practicing together, we both, and you're better at it than I am, singing drums actually. So but he could actually sit down and play it too. So you're a very good air drummer, singing drummer. So anyway, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's my thing. No, I have to say, man, it was really nice to hear your take on it. You kept the 2 and 4 on the verses. I mean, do you want me to give you like a production comment, like composer?
Sure.
No.
Yeah, I think that would be fun for people to hear because, like I said, for me, I just heard everything else but the drums, and that's what I put together, and I mixed it, and for that, and so that, for me, it's like a kind of a straight ahead, funk version with 2 and 4 with maybe some linear a la David Garibaldi type of things, and with the hi-hat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the initial approach.
Well, I mean, I had a couple of ideas, but I'm really into the displacement thing, obviously, and I had this idea. I don't actually know if it would work, but I had this idea on the A section where the phrase is 4 bars long. Da 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 da. No, it's 2 bars long. Okay, so the first part of the phrase the first bar you would actually displace, and then the second bar you would go back to 2 and 4. And my thought would be you would displace it a 16th note later. So in my mind, and I'll try to do this mouthing the drums, 2, 3, 4, da da da. So let me clap. 3, 4, da 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 I don't know. It just sort of goes. It offsets with the little motif there, the bass motif.
Okay.
I don't know. It was just my original thought, but frankly, I never heard it done.
Okay. Well, let's look at it. Okay. So if I understand, if we just listen to the music, with what's going on, you could everybody can check out what's happening here. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. Now it's interesting, Jay, because the only the first bar is 16th notes. It turns into 8th notes the second bar. Mm-hmm. So, and you sang to me 16th notes for both bars. I just want to double check that that's what you want, because if it is.
Also because I think if you only do it 1 and 3, like 1 off, 3 on, it in my mind it feels too frenetic. Too much like you messed up or something.
Okay, so if I'm playing it so
yeah, one thing. Except one addition is on the downbeat of the on section of the second bar, kick drum right on the downbeat to establish doom ba doom ba. Yeah. Anyway,
all right. Well, let's try that with the music. So what I'll do is, just to get back into the groove, I'm gonna play the first time like I did, and then after the B section, when it goes back, I'm gonna play it your way, so you can hear the difference.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try it. 1, 2. Okay, so now hearing that, is that what you want? Because that musically for me is tough, and I'll tell you why. Yeah.
I mean, it's okay. Of course, you pulled it off brilliantly. It's okay. I don't love it as much as I thought I would.
Well, let me.
What if you did an eighth note, not a 16th note, or something? I mean, I'm hearing that.
Yeah. Because the bass. Well, there's two things that I would do differently. Because the first displacement thing works really well with the part, but then the bass note. The bass note keeps going 3, right? So if I hit that downbeat on the second bar, for me it's a conflict, right? So let's try your idea of the eighth note, because the da 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 right becomes it's do da da is eighth notes, not 16ths in the melody.
Yeah.
So let me mess around with that idea.
Okay.
Yeah. Oops. Why'd you do that? Mouse is touchy. Here we go. 1, 2. So that way, for me, musically, kind of makes the most sense sitting in this chair.
That's better too. It's actually not what I thought you were going to do, though. Just throwing it out there. I thought you were going to not do the 16th note displacement at all. Just abandon.
Oh no. The first bar makes sense with the 16th note displacement.
What would the first bar sound like with an eighth note displacement, and just throw out the 16th note displacement idea?
And carry it how long?
I don't know.
All right, let me mess with it.
The whole bar.
I missed the 16th, honestly.
Yeah, it's funny. That's more Garibaldi, I think. I feel like it is. Yeah, I can go either way, frankly.
Yeah. Well, but it's interesting to hear the different versions,
Yeah.
and these are the things that, in a recording situation, the ability to pull this stuff off right away. This is where the stuff in the practice room comes in.
Yeah.
To be able to practice, different variations so that you can do something like this that he's asking me to do. It's like I don't have to I can play it because I have the knowledge of having practiced the displacement stuff, the independent stuff. It doesn't hurt that we've been playing together for 45 years or whatever it is.
No, but you're right. I mean, you come to the session with the menu,
right,
and you're ready at any point. We can say, "No, let's try it this way. Let's try it this way," and then we find the one we're right, and it's like bingo. That's it. Do that one.
Yeah.
It'd be like going to a restaurant and they only have one item on the menu. And you're like, well, we have a second one, but you have to come back in 30 minutes while we figure out what it's going to be.
Right. And here's the other side of that too. And this is something to practice as well. The ability to, whatever it is you come up with, and if the producer goes, yeah, that's it, you got to be able to remember it. You have to be able to actually do it again. And so you've got to be able to compose the part and then remember the composition. And for me, that's the trickiest part. It's like you come up with something, and if you're not recording it, it's like, oops, what was that? I don't remember what I just played. So that becomes something where if you're going for something, you make an intention to, an idea anyways, to make an intention about trying one specific thing at a time, and then if somebody goes that, it's like, okay, I know what that is. But if you're trying like all this stuff all at once, then it's like a piece of it works, some of it didn't. You have no idea what you're doing with it.
Yeah.
Right? So just coming from a teaching perspective of, being the drummer and you're in a situation like that. And, for me, I come up with these ideas just like you did, and I talk about this all the time, which is singing the part first, to be able to sing the part. So anyway, so that was cool. That was an interesting test. So what else? Any other sections?
I have another suggestion. On that note, let's see how quickly you can just pull this one out of your hat, and I'm sure you can. The little lick? There's a little lick there that's like a sort of a... It's
right.
before it's that little interim lick. I heard that as like you doing something like a complete copy of that rhythm in Rudiment, just on the snare, and like completely change it up, because it kind of sounds like you're doing the same thing you're doing everywhere else. Be nice to sort of spotlight that as a really different approach, that kind of like Spain, on the little motif there that separates the solos and sections. It's just a different thing.
Right. Well, I was going to a cowbell. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah.
Because then later when it displaces, it's the displaced rhythm on the cowbell. But I can certainly try this too. So you're talking about...
It may be the mix, because I'm hearing mostly drums, but like no rim shotty kind of stuff, but just like really make that something different.
Well, wait a minute. What's wrong with hearing mostly drums? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so you're talking about the first time this happens.
Yeah, I think it happens twice before the organ solo.
Okay, so let's see here. Let's see if I can find this. Coming up, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so So let's see. This is the first one again. So you play. What's interesting is you're playing games with the hits, right? Sometimes they happen right away, and then the next time there's like 4 beats before it happens. They're always moving, so it's okay. So this is the first time where it happens right away.
That's called compositional ADD.
Okay. All right. So
I'm in that program.
And now, judging from Jay's air drumming, when he went to do the accents, he went over to the hi-hat and did the standard R&B thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I catch that correctly?
You did. Yes. Very good. Good eye. That's
okay.
Garibaldi, I think. Just sounds like it.
Well, everybody. I mean, David was one of the first probably, but there's a lot of that's actually an old R&B thing too.
Yes.
Pop music in the '60s and James Brown, and blah blah blah. Clyde, all the guys. Yep. All right, so let me play it from that where I just started right there, and we'll see how I do.
Yeah. For me, that worked. It was nice.
Yeah, see, that's cool. I had to really concentrate to make sure I got the rhythm right from what I thought I remembered it being. But those kind of things, again, this type of concentration, it brings me back to the days of being in the studios in New York and LA when, the clock is ticking. It's like 3-hour session. You got a book of music this thick. And it's, you don't, in those days, you didn't want to be the guy or the person that was like, wait a minute, what is that note? How does that rhythm go? No.
Yeah.
So being able to do, to respond to a request quickly, you might have noticed the first thing I did was I went into a thought process. It's like, okay, preparing mentally for it, right? And then I'm basically banking on all of my 52 years of history of playing to pull it off, to actually nail it, right? So you go into that frame of mind. I'm just trying to share for the drummers that it's it takes a concentration level, that
Dude,
you have to you have to practice it. Actually, it's a practice thing, of concentrating.
I will say that you are the king. I've been in sessions with tons and tons and tons of drummers, and I don't know how you concentrate for that long without interruption. And you don't miss it, man. You're pretty amazing.
Well, grazie. I appreciate that. I'll tell you one thing that really helped me is the Gary Chester studies. That helped my concentration level to be able to, because you had to practice and sing all of the internals that were going on. And I didn't realize it at the time, but what it was doing was really fine-tuning my ability to really hear things quickly and internalize, not only with myself, but with the music that's going on, to pick up all those little things that you've got going in there. You've got all those little bass notes, you got a horn hit happening here, you got the keyboard stuff, and the melody. So, and then there's the job of the drummer to keep the groove happening, to keep it all going and to make it all work. So, just from a drummer's perspective, if you haven't gone through Gary Chester New Breed, please do it. It will help your concentration level, not only the independence aspect. So, okay, so that was that, and that last thing that would have been something I would have never even thought to play there. I just, I went to my wheelhouse, which is I heard to go to the cowbell thing. Now let me ask you something. In the drum solo, right, where the phrase displaces.
Yes, it's a bitch.
So, but are you talking about doing the same thing there? Or are you?
No.
Because it's a drum solo, right?
It's a drum solo, but I have to tell you, I didn't know this until I heard you play it. I'm not sure that works.
It works. It totally works. I screwed it up the first time, so that was probably why it didn't work.
Do you know that was the original lick for the whole song?
Oh.
That whole middle section that you're now doing the rudiment thing was the original one was that, and I tell you what, I played it over and over, and after a while I thought, you know what, this is too absurd. I'm just going way too far down this rabbit hole of displacement, and
right.
and it's going to throw everybody. Like that
right.
one, I mean, that throws me. That is like one of the hardest displacement things you could ever do.
Okay, so for those folks watching that don't know what the heck we're talking about, displacement, we're talking about taking a rhythm or a phrase or a beat, anything, and basically taking the whole thing and displacing it one way or the other from the beat that it is, that it was originally at. So, very simply, if we took a rock beat, okay, just a very simple rock beat. Now what I'll do is I'll keep the hi-hat going in quarter notes here, and I'm going to play the right-hand part on a rim. So this will be the quarter note, and I'm going to displace everything else an eighth note after the quarter note. Okay, so this is the idea of displacement in the literal sense, okay? After the beat, before the beat, you can do it with 16th notes, which becomes pretty hairy, which is kind of the rhythm that is happening in this song, and that's what happens in the drum solo. He takes the rhythm and the phrase that is this rhythm. I don't have this marked here, so let's see. That was lucky. Okay.
You want me to show? I can demonstrate too, if you'd like.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
For
Yeah,
instance,
absolutely.
the easier one, I know where you're going to go, and that's the hard one. But here's the easier one. On the 4 chord, it goes right, 3, 4. So looks like a little guitar riff, right? But the next one, I do the same thing, displaced by a 16th note. 3, 4, 3, 3. It's exactly the same little riff, little motif, earlier by a 16th note.
Cool. Okay, and then I can tell this whole song is like got all those ingredients, but it's the actual lick that I'm talking about, right? The next thing that is this, right? That lick in the drum solo. That lick gets displaced, right? So maybe somewhere around here.
It's a different lick.
But it's kind of common. It's kind of the same, right? Or am I full of it?
Well,
I don't know where it is.
It's a common lick.
No, not common. I'm sorry. But it kind of it is. Isn't it a quote from somewhere else in the tune? Displaced, or it's not?
I don't think so. It's this. I mean, everyone hears that's a real common phrase. Da, 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 da. But it's displaced by a 16th note.
Exactly.
3, 4. The way it's put in there, it's just it's a tough one.
Right. Okay. So let me see if I can find it here. Yeah. Yeah. So. Yeah. So, and that lends itself to that 16th note displacement. So the way that I played it, if I back up just a hair here. Okay. So if I count through it again, right? 2, 3, 4. Right, yeah. So it starts out da 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 da, and then it starts displacing instead of going da 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 da.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Da 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 da. Right. So again, if I just played that, if I played straight against it, right?
Yeah.
But how I was treating it was kind of like this. Yeah. So I just kept all of the 16ths off, displaced, and there's a number of ways to treat that. If I did it more on the drums, right, I could do something like this. Right, so my phrases then start to be determined by the displacement of the phrase. So instead of playing on the downbeat, I'm playing 3, 4, I'm accenting along with it. And sometimes the fun part of that too is to counterpoint it with and not play exactly what that is. You could play the opposite of it, right? Like I could play something on the other 16th, for example, right? They kind of all become the same after a while.
Yeah,
anyway.
that's great.
But anyway, that's that training of being able to do and be able to understand where you are with the phrase. And I mean, David Garibaldi, Tower of Power, even, some of the James Brown grooves, there's a lot. It's like we're certainly not the first to do this by any means, but we had a bunch of fun with it in the early days because we kind of discovered that the same phrases that you would play become this incredibly different thing that you wouldn't do. So you take a phrase like this, right, going around the kit, and you just start displacing that, right? That was just an eighth note displaced and a 16th note displaced. And even something as simple as that becomes a little more interesting, right? Because it's displaced.
Hey, Dave.
So, yeah.
Didn't this all start for the two of you guys? Maybe Jay could talk about this a little bit, but because you were hearing something Jay was playing completely differently than Dave, right?
Yeah. Back in 1981, I think, is when Jay moved. I finally got him to move up to the East Coast with me. And we were in this house in Westport, Connecticut, and I'll never forget the basement flooded. One time it was a mess. But we would be down there practicing every day. And what we used to do, since we met, probably when we were 16, is we would just play together. And Jay is unbelievably, capable of playing bass lines in a lot of independence. So he's got amazing talent for that. So we didn't even need a bass player to have fun and play together. And we did it all the time. So, and as we developed, we're now 21, right? And we're in the basement playing together. So he starts playing this riff. And I start playing my usual stuff, grooves, time. This is how I remember it. Maybe you should talk about that, because I always say it, and this is what I remember, is that I heard you playing something, and I didn't have any idea.
No, that's what it was. But it was a riff that could easily be misconstrued as a different one.
Yeah.
And I think it was something like, 3, 4, 1. And you heard it as 1. Or maybe you heard it as 3, 4, 1. I don't know. You were off by an eighth note, I think. Whatever
16th.
you heard.
I think it was a 16th. Because you were if it was an eighth note, they would have just been flipped upside down. Mm-hmm. My phrases would have just been upside down by an eighth note. But I'm pretty sure that it was a 16th note, because what I remember is you were having trouble keeping going, because you weren't understanding. You said, dude, I never heard you play any of these phrases before. Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah. Right.
And I was like, what are you talking about? It's my normal stuff. And then we were recording, right? We always used to record in case we came up with stuff that we wanted to write music for. And we're listening to it, and my head is here, and your head is there, wait, where's your one?
It's close. I was so freaked out because I was hearing the normal stuff that Dave would solo over, and I was hearing it like, I guess, a 16th note off, and it was blowing my mind. I just thought, dude, that is so badass. Like, do you have any idea what you're doing? And then we talked about it and realized what happened, and then we started recording, and I said, let's do a test. And so we hit record, and I played I just played the groove, and knowing where I thought it was, and then you soloed over it with no bass line, and then we played it back, and I played some sort of obvious bass line over where I heard one, and now you were hearing yourself for the first time displaced, and then it blew your mind.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, this is like something new. This is like, if I learn what these phrases are, I could come up with a whole other vocabulary, or at least another approach to practicing, rhythms that I wouldn't normally play. Yeah. And it just was that whole displacement thing. So we proceeded to, every time we were in the car together, the radio would be on, or we'd play a tape, and everything we would do, we would be singing drums backwards, and upside down and displaced, eighth notes, 16th, and you doing the hi-hat, right?
Yeah.
It's like it got pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But
look what happened. It opened up a whole new world of phrasing that you had never thought of before. And it's like, oh my gosh, there's all this new stuff. I don't have to just listen to Gad and Erskine and Billy Cobham and all the people. I can actually listen to myself and get inspired by my own crap, that I play all the time, now in a different place.
Right. Yeah, cool. All right. So I mean, was there anything else in the tune that you made a mental note of?
No, dude, it was really, really cool. That was the thing. That one section during the drum solo, during that displaced thing, I felt like, that didn't come off the way I originally thought about, because, you were playing some shit, like you were doing some stuff in it, and it didn't showcase the fact that was a displaced line. If anything, it made it sound a bit confusing. But just now, when you were demonstrating that, the thing, when you were on the hi-hat and you kind of went with the displacement, yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, I honestly didn't play it right the first time. I totally messed it up the first time through it. The second time was a little bit better. But
my only note was like, maybe I shouldn't have it in there. Maybe it's not working.
Oh, I love it, man. Don't take it out. I dig it. I dig it. So the other section to talk about, though, and this isn't, the only reason I left it in there was because I actually thought it was kind of fun, was the spacey drum solo section, which is not supposed to be a drum solo.
That was awesome. It was great. I loved what you did.
Yeah, so that approach, since the drum solo was coming up next around the hits, I didn't want to do a lot of the same thing, and we talk about this in the soloing section of the school a lot, about composing a solo that that you're not just repeating yourself, you're actually composing something that goes with the music. So so that was a challenging, fun thing to come up with different washy type of situations, still playing in time, but just allowing the music to breathe, catching some of the Rhodes things that were on, on the And 4 or wherever they were. But those are the kind of things, that we do kind of naturally together. I think the first time I played it through, I did that, and I was like, oh, well, we hit that. We hit that together like usual,
Yeah. No, I thought you did really well. I liked what your approach was on that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You might want to leave it in, especially if Rob does the drumology thing with a few different drummers. It might be a nice section for.
Well, I mean, theoretically, there should be a soloist playing.
I know, that's what I mean, right? Yeah. But this turned into another thing. I you've got this nice percussive loop going in the background for most of the song, and I turned that way down for this section so that the groove kind of just went away, and so it changed it up a little bit. But
cool.
But anyway, this is fun. I thought it would be a fun thing to bring you in and talk about this, and I see a lot of requests here for brainstorming on how to create a song. We should probably do that at some point. I think we have to be in the same room for that one though, because I know there's software out there now that's getting close to being able to play together, but from different locations. But we sort of need to. We need to get together and just kind of like, okay, let's do this process, and write, come up with a song and that type of thing. That would be fun.
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. Steve, anything else? Is there any questions that you see from folks that we may want to discuss? Or
I saw a question about Tower of Inspiration and how that has some displacement in it, and since you two guys are the creators of that song, maybe any comments on that? It was recorded in that room. Right? Is that right?
I think that was the song we ever wrote.
Well, yeah, I remember it very distinctly. We were right there, Jay, in that space in your basement, and I remember that on the Tonight Show, on Johnny Carson's show, the young guy Armand was going to play, and he was 12 years old, I think, and he was on there playing Spain, if I remember correctly. And he just killed it. He was so great, and I was so inspired that I immediately grabbed a pen and a paper, because I started singing this thing, and just the bass line and the whole thing, and I started writing different rhythms for the section. And I remember I think we composed a good amount of that song that night, just on the inspiration of it, because I really remember that moment. So,
wow, that's
so
good.
that
I don't remember.
that's where it kind of came from, and it was definitely inspired by Tower, Tower of Power and David Garibaldi.
Yeah.
Who has inspired a lot of us. And if you haven't got your ears on on David Garibaldi, which if you're a drummer and you're in here, shame on you. So go listen to David Garibaldi.
I think both of us are probably frustrated trumpet players or something, because we were so into horn sections and good ones, like funky stuff. It's just like, we didn't hear that much. We had Blood, Sweat, and Tears. There was a group called Chase. There was a group called Cold Blood. And then, of course, Chicago, had done all that stuff. And then Tower of Power just took it to this other level, and it was funk R&B.
But don't forget there was all the big bands too, because Maynard Ferguson's band, they were almost they were always in competition with Tower of Power. It's like who could play the badass, the most badass horn parts, and Maynard would play some funk stuff. So they're, you remember,
a little bit.
Yeah, you remember Give It One?
Big bandy, but yeah, I guess you're right.
You remember Give It One?
Yes.
Maynard's tune, right?
Oh.
Yeah, so, yeah. Right. Yeah. I remember Erskine jumping up and down on his chair playing that tune when I saw him live.
Yes.
Dave, didn't you play with Maynard?
Yes, when I was 19.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That was right after Peter Erskine was on the band, and Jay was trying to get me on the band, but it never happened.
Yeah, that was actually an interesting moment your fans would probably like, because I was on the band. It was a different band, and it wasn't gelling in the same way that the previous band had, and I was not very good, to be honest with you. Like, it was kind of a new thing for me, but I knew that, I had Dave. Like, I left my buddy, I left my musical partner back in St. Louis, and I went out on tour. And the whole time I'm thinking, dude, you should be here. You should be on this band. They totally need to have you, because, you're just like, you play like differently than everybody else. And I think it'd be great. And I tried delicately, but there's like politics, and, you don't want to push too hard. You might be fired if you.
Well, I remember I left for school for Bridgeport a couple months after you were on the band, and I was practicing my butt off, man, to all the Maynard stuff. I was prepping just in case I got the call. I was going to be ready.
Oh man!
But
I
was
fun. Trying, and had that happened, I really think your career would have wound up going a different route, or it just would have ended up differently.
Yeah, what they say about the path, but no complaints as it went. But I sure would have loved to have played with Maynard and you on the band. That would have been fun.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe someday we'll put together a big band.
That's on my bucket list, actually. That's going to happen one of these days soon. So we're working on it here.
Yeah.
Anything in the works with you guys there besides this one tune? You guys gonna work on some other stuff?
We definitely will work on stuff. At the moment, I'm employing Jay to design my studio. so he's busy in Photoshop drawing ductwork and electricity outlets and
it's my calling, really.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. Well, you can see the similarity in the rooms, right? Your wood back there, this wood back here. It's like you designed this studio too. This is the Adam Hill Record Studio, so Rob's place. Yeah, so if I can afford the wood, mine is going to look a little bit similar, and it's we'll get some other guys in the group too.
Steve, to answer your question, we do have plans to open a lemonade stand.
Right. Yeah. But it's gonna be displaced lemonade, so it's gonna have a little bit of like grapefruit juice in it.
Yeah.
It'll be over there. It'll be.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but we definitely we're going to do some stuff for sure while we're both here and get into it. Just gotta settle down into this move is all consuming for me at the moment, and Jay's got his hands full with his app. I saw Daniel Bianchi, who's one of our school guys, ask what the name of your app is, and it's not out yet. You're still working on it, right?
Right. So, it's not available. I shouldn't be saying too much about it, but yeah, it's going to be amazing. The working title is called Groove Clicks.
Yeah.
So it'll be clicks with the groove.
Go copyright that right now.
Yeah, I know. I shouldn't have said it.
Yeah.
But
it's I've had experience playing to a couple of them, and a lot of them are like this. I mean, the MIDI parts are so realistic and they're so in time. So I can't, we'll probably do a pack that is, that's got my name on it with
Yes.
Jay. We talked about that, and
Yep.
doing some of our songs or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
looking forward to that.
Lots
But,
oh my gosh, lots of banks will be out with different, I mean, we'll even have probably a rap bank, R&B, funk. We'll have rock and roll. We'll have different genres, and they'll all be inclusive in there. It's going to be a nice little game changer, I think, for everybody.
Well, get it out there, will you? I need.
Well, I would, but I'm busy designing ductwork and electrical outlets for studios.
Okay, it's my fault. Right. All right, cool. Anything else, Steve? We've been on quite a while today.
No, but I just, in this moment, I actually want to thank both of you, because without the two of you, I wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't even be working in music, probably. There'd be no Drum Fantasy Camp without having met Jay, who introduced me to you, who ultimately, so this is like...
That's so sweet.
So anyway, in addition to all the great music you guys have made, you've kind of, the roots have gone out in other directions you don't even realize. So that's just one of them. So thank you.
Yeah, well, it's our honor, and it's such an honor to know you, Mr. Orkin. And thank you for I mean, Steve does so much work for both of us, but for me especially, he's my partner in the school that you see there. I'm down in the corner of the screen, and my marketing manager. So thank you, sir, for all that help. And,
no kidding.
Yeah.
Marketing. Where would we be without marketing?
Right.
Well, we have to have Jay on again, because clearly there's a lot people can learn from just listening to you guys do your process. So Jay, come back. Do more of these.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jay, thanks for being here, and thank you all for coming in and sharing time with us today. This has been a fun little different approach to the hang today, and very informative for me. It was fun. It was fun to come up and try to rise to the challenges of the producer, Mr. Oliver. It's always a challenge.
Especially that producer. Jeez.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. It's really been fun.
All right, cool. Well, that's it for today, guys. I'm not going to have play a tune out. Steve will play the trailer on the way out, and we will see you probably in a couple weeks. We'll make sure that date is available for all of us. All right, very cool.
All right, thanks.
See you guys later. Thanks so much for being here. Ciao.